Okay, so I promised you guys that I would come out with this 32 team NFL mock draft 1.0. I had some extra time tonight before I went to sleep, so I decided I'd just go ahead and do this mock draft here. So this is just what I project them to do in the first round here. I did use a few sources as well, but these also fill needs that each team has. Um, but Just let me know what you guys think of this mock. If there's any changes that you would suggest, just leave them in the comment section below. But anyway, let's just get this started here. So, round one, pick one. The Arizona Cardinals have the first pick on the board. Um, a lot of people are saying they should trade back, pick up additional picks here. Um, and this right here is going to test on how they feel about Josh Rosen, who they drafted last year. But I don't think he fits their scheme and what they want to do going forward. So here they draft Kyler Murray, by far the best quarterback in this year's draft. Because measurables, it's questionable to see what he sized at the combine, but Kyler Murray, obviously the number one player on the board as of right now, and at the quarterback position. So Kyler Murray, quarterback of Oklahoma, goes here to the Arizona Cardinals. Moving on to San Francisco, who carries the second selection in the first round. There's been a lot of news lately about them possibly going edge rusher again in the draft because there's just so much depth there, and they always seem to draft at the top of the draft, and they always address their defense. Well, Nick Bosa has been reportedly in all the mocks I've seen going there, but I don't think they're going to really need him at defensive end because I believe they already drafted like two or three the past 2 years. So I have them actually drafting someone who is similar to who they had before in Aldon Smith, and that's Josh Allen, the outside linebacker out of Kentucky. Um, Josh Allen is a great edge rusher. He can play line. He's a linebacker, so he's an edge rusher slash linebacker. But I think he's gonna fit good in that scheme and kind of fill that void that Aldon Smith had when he was there. Moving on to the third pick in the first round, that belongs to the New York Jets. Here I have the New York Jets selecting possibly the second best player in the draft, and that is Nick Bosa, the defensive end out of Ohio State. The Jets today, as of Rappaport, they are getting Anthony Barr and just drafting Nick Bosa. That just instantly gives them a better pass rush than what they had last year, and even possibly even an elite pass rushing duo there. So New York Jets drafting Nick Bosa there. Moving on to the fourth pick, it belongs to the Oakland Raiders. This is their first of three picks in the first round. Um, Here they could do a few different things. They could address a few defensive needs, but they just got Antonio Brown from the Pittsburgh Steelers for a third and fifth round pick. So they don't really have much help to help Derek Carr besides Antonio Brown now. So here I have them actually drafting the best wide receiver in the draft, and that is DK Metcalf, the wide receiver at Ole Miss. Ole Miss. He is a different type body receiver. He's a bigger body receiver, as Antonio Brown's smaller statue. He can, and I think DK is gonna, pull some coverage off of Antonio Brown just due to his physical attributes. I think he could possibly be close to the caliber of Calvin Johnson when he played for Detroit, and so on and so forth. But moving on to the fifth round, or the fifth selection in the first round, here there's going to be a little bit of a controversy here, but Tampa Bay has a bunch of needs here. They just recently signed they lost a linebacker, I should say, in Quan Alexander. But they need some defensive help. Colt McCoy, or not Colt McCoy, Gerald McCoy isn't getting any younger. So here they need to address the defensive line. And Quinton Williams is by far one of the best interior defense linemen in this draft. So I have them picking him up and pairing him with Gerald McCoy. That instantly improves their defensive line and helps eat up some of that coverage so that the linebackers can get some pressure. Moving on to the sixth pick here. The New York Giants hold this selection, and a big need is still on the board. Dwayne Haskins, the quarterback out of Ohio State, is going to be the selection. I believe he's going to sit the bench his first year, possibly the first half of this year, just depending on how Eli Manning plays. But he is by far the best pocket passer in this draft. He's not fast at all. Although he did run quite a bit at Ohio State, it was just due to scheme. But he is a pure pocket passer. He is very slow. He ran like I think a 5.1 or 5.02, a very slow 40 for a quarterback nowadays. But moving on, seventh selection here belongs to the Jacksonville Jaguars. And here urgency is on the clock here in Jacksonville. They drafted Blake Bortles a few years ago, hoping he was going to be the knight in shining armor that he was at UCF, but he was not. So they are going to take another chance here on this kid, who I think is pretty damn good. Trying to think of a quarterback to compare him to, but I can't think of one off the top of my head, and that is Drew Lock, the quarterback out of Missouri. This kid has good attributes. He has a high football IQ, which a lot of teams like in a quarterback. He kind of reminds me with his intelligence of a Peyton Manning, a Peyton Manning hybrid. Um, he doesn't really deliver the ball. He makes smart decisions with it. Like if he normally relies on his tight end as well as he's not afraid to throw it deep, which is what I think Jacksonville needs on their team. Moving on to the eighth selection here belongs to the Detroit Lions. As many of you know, I have mocked the Detroit Lions to get Montez Sweat in the last two mock drafts I have, so I just have them selecting Montez Sweat here. They did just get Trey Flowers today, as well as um, Danny Amendola and Justin Gilbert, I want to say. I might be off by that, but a corner anyway. So I think just solidifying the defense here with the defensive end outside linebacker of Montez Sweat's caliber and athleticism. He ran a 4.41 at the combine, which is ridiculous for a man his size. Moving on to the ninth selection, it belongs to the Buffalo Bills. Here the Buffalo Bills are going to add some defensive needs here, and that is at linebacker. Devin White, linebacker LSU, he's the best player on the board. Buffalo would be dumb not to draft him here. He is an excellent talent. He can track the ball well as play coverage, and he's just a good selection here, and I think he'll be a good fit in the Buffalo defensive scheme. Moving on to this 10th selection, the Denver Broncos are very upset that they did not get their quarterback that they were looking at in Drew Lock. They did trade for Joe Flacco, but Joe Flacco, I think, only has a couple more years in his prime. So I think the Broncos are going to have to go defensive here. And there's a very good player still on the board, and it addresses a need, and that is Ed Oliver, the defensive lineman out of Houston. Ed Oliver, they compared him to Aaron Donald at the Combine via NFL Network. He is a great player, great hand motion, great hip movement. It's going to be interesting to see what he does in the league. Moving on to pick 11, that belongs to the Cincinnati Bengals here. And the Cincinnati Bengals really don't need much. They just have to stay healthy here. I think the only need that I could see that they could actually go with, and they normally draft BPA, which is best player available, and Greedy Williams, the corner out of LSU, is by far the best player still on the board. It also fits a need and also fits a scheme fit for them. Greedy Williams, I believe, is going to be a top tier corner eventually. There's been a lot of criticism against him, and I don't know why, but I think he's going to be a top corner in the game eventually. Moving on to pick 12, that belongs to the Green Bay Packers. The Green Bay Packers here could go one of two ways. They could go defense, but I believe they're going to go offense here. Possibly. They could go tight end here, but I actually have them going offensive tackle, and that is Jawaan Taylor, the offensive tackle out of Florida. Jawaan Taylor is one of the best offensive tackles in this draft. Getting him here at pick 12 is a great value. It's going to help protect the aging Aaron Rodgers, because let's face it, he's not getting any younger, and he's getting less and less mobile as he ages. So Jawaan Taylor here to help protect your prize asset in Aaron Rodgers is a must here for the Green Bay Packers. Moving on to pick 13, that belongs to the Miami Dolphins this year. And the Miami Dolphins really don't know what they're going to do here because, for one, they have Ryan Tannehill. Ryan Tannehill didn't really pan out the way they wanted him to. So I actually have them drafting a quarterback here, and this kid is a great kid, really smart. He went to Duke, and Duke is an excellent academic school. But Daniel Jones, a quarterback from Duke, great kid. Great personality. I love the fit here with the Miami Dolphins, and as well as helping him develop a little bit quicker. I think Tannehill still might get the edge on the start unless they release him. Moving on to pick 14 here, and this belongs to the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons was mid of the pack this year. They really struggled in some games getting to the quarterback. Clelin Ferrell, defensive end out of Clemson, is going to change all of that for them. Clelin Ferrell showed up this year, had an excellent season, and I believe pick 14 is a great value. Moving on to the Washington Redskins. Washington Redskins, also in some of the mock drafts I've seen, wanted a quarterback, but that did not happen. So they just drafted BPA, best player available, and get Rashawn Gary, the defensive lineman out of Michigan. This kid is a freakish athlete. He can track the ball well as using his hands to get inside and push the pocket. I believe he's going to be a good fit in Washington and help them immediately. Moving on to pick 16, belonging to the Carolina Panthers. The Carolina Panthers don't really have much of a linebacking core left anymore. They have Luke Kuechly, but he's not getting any younger. Let's face it, he's been in the league for 6 or 7 years now. But Devin Bush, the linebacker out of Michigan here, I think he's going to come in and be an instant upgrade and help them get a little bit younger at that position. Now moving on to pick 17, belongs to the Cleveland Browns. Cleveland Browns, I have them selecting Jonah Williams, offensive tackle out of Alabama. Last year they had the very first pick in the draft, and they drafted Baker Mayfield. It was very controversial, but Baker Mayfield showed up this year, had a great season, and Jonah Williams is going to help protect their asset in him and just help build that offensive line to help protect him as well. He is mobile, Baker Mayfield anyway, but I just think offensive tackle here makes the most sense. Moving on to the 18th pick, it belongs to the Minnesota Vikings this year. And the Minnesota Vikings, there's really not much that they need. They did lose a couple players on their defense, so they could go defense here, but their offensive line isn't very young. So I've been getting Garrett Bradbury, the offensive center out of North Carolina State. Great kid, very football IQ, and the best center in the draft. So I think that's going to be a good pickup for them. Scroll down here, pick 19, that belongs to the Tennessee Titans. The Tennessee Titans here could go one of two ways. They could address the wide receiver position, but they really don't need to. I think corner here makes the most sense, and Byron Murphy is still on the board, so I think they should just go out and get him. He's a great corner. He's by the second best corner available in this year's draft, and I just think he's going to be a great pickup there at the 19th selection. Moving on to pick 20, the Pittsburgh Steelers will hold the selection, and after losing Antonio Brown, they go out and get themselves another wide receiver that they can pair up with Juju Schuster. A.J. Brown, the wide receiver out of Ole Miss, is going to come in and help them replace Antonio Brown at that position and just overall give them a great duo. Moving on to pick 21, this belongs to the Seattle Seahawks. The Seattle Seahawks this year lost Earl Thomas, so I have them actually selecting the best safety in this year's draft in Deontay Thompson, the safety out of Alabama. He's a big, lengthy guy. He kind of fits their scheme. He reminds me a lot of Cam Chancellor when he was there. He can play the pass as well as going up and lay some lumber, which I know Pete Carroll loves. Moving on to pick 22. The Baltimore Ravens lost Terrell Suggs this offseason. He was a very old edge rusher, but Ja'Kai Polite, the offensive lineman / defensive end edge rusher from Florida, I think he's going to come in and be an instant improvement over Terrell Suggs was last year. 23 belongs to the Houston Texans. The Houston Texans franchise tagged, I believe, Jadeveon Clowney. He will be back this next season, but don't know about the following season. So I have the Houston Texans getting Brian Burns, the outside linebacker, defensive end out of FSU. J.J. Watt has been injured off and on for the last 2 seasons, so getting another defensive end outside linebacker is not a bad option if you are the Houston Texans. Moving on to pick 24, this one belongs to the Oakland Raiders as well. This is their second of 3 picks. The Oakland Raiders, I have here selecting Christian Wilkins, the defensive tackle out of Clemson. Christian Wilkins last year was projected to be in a top 10 pick, but decided to go back to school to get another title. Christian Wilkins is an excellent talent. He can push the pocket as well as eat up pressure. Make pressure is what I should say. But Chris Wilkins, I like that pick there. Mike Mayock and his other, I can't think of the quarterback. I'll think of it on the next pick. But moving on, John Gruden. There we go. John Gruden will make him. That's going to be an excellent pickup for them. Moving on to pick 25. This belongs to the Philadelphia Eagles, everyone. And the Philadelphia Eagles, they really did good this year. There's only one place that I think they need to do, and they lost Jay Ajay this offseason. So I think they're going to address the running back position. I think they're going to be drafting the only running back going in the first round this year, and that's going to be Josh Jacobs, the running back out of Alabama. This kid shows flashes of speed as well as running with power. Great hands out of the backfield as well. So Philadelphia drafts him. Moving on to pick 26, belongs to the Indianapolis Colts. The Indianapolis Colts need to draft another corner. And I have them getting Mani Awari, cornerback out of Penn State. I think this is just going to be an excellent selection, especially for the value at 26 selection. Moving on to the final pick for the Oakland Raiders at 27. And they go and they address offense again and get Derek Carr another target. And this target is going to be Noah Fant, the tight end out of Iowa. This kid is the fastest tight end in the draft, as well as one of the most physical tight ends in the draft. And the Green Bay Packers at 30 are sitting there kind of regretting not getting him at the, I think, 12th selection they had earlier in the draft. But Noah Fant, 27, goes to the Oakland Raiders. The 28th selection belongs to the LA Chargers. The Chargers have Antonio Gates. He's not getting any younger. TJ Hawkinson's going to come in, the other tight end from Iowa, and fill that void. He's going to be leaving, as he's probably going to retire here shortly this season, if not this season, then next. Moving on to the 29th selection, the Kansas City Chiefs. I have them selecting Zach Allen, the defensive lineman out of Boston College. Kansas City just released Justin Houston today. They need to get another defensive lineman / defensive end to get some pressure, and Zach Allen is going to be just that. Pick 30 in this draft belongs to the Green Bay Packers, as I said previously, and the Green Bay Packers are going to draft a tight end here. It's going to be a tight end frenzy at the end of the first round, I have a feeling, and it's going to be Caden Smith, the tight end out of Stanford. This kid can block as well as catch the ball with the best of them. He is a very decent sized tight end. He's not the biggest, he's not the smallest, but he's in between, and I think he's going to be a great pro. Kind of reminds me of Jesse James, who the Lions just signed. Moving on to the 31st selection, it belongs to the LA Rams, and here I just have the LA Rams drafting Dexter Lawrence, defensive lineman at Clemson. Dexter Lawrence is going to go in there and fill a void left by Ndamukong Suh, pair him with Aaron Donald, and you have an excellent duo there at the defensive line position. Moving on to pick 32, the final pick in this year's first round belongs to the New England Patriots. The New England Patriots here are going to draft a tight end, and this is going to be the final pick. So Irv Smith Jr., the tight end of Alabama, they're going to draft him and bring him in to pair with Rob Gronkowski and give them a duel like they had when they had Aaron Hernandez and Robert Gronkowski. And that's going to be it for this video. Like, subscribe to my channel, hit the little bell icon to get the notifications when I upload new videos. Leave a comment below and let me know what you guys think of this mock draft. I will probably do one more right before the draft because this does take a lot of time to do. But other than that, I am out, and you guys have a wonderful evening. I am out.